Just told you I'm Bob Caldwell. We just rebranded. We've been called Sciencio for about 3 years. Nobody can say it, nobody can spell it, so about a week ago we rebranded to 42 Chat, which is a hell of a lot easier to say or spell. So we're very excited about that. Yes, yes indeed. So my premise was, what's the future of AI chat? Is it a fad? I'm going to remove some of the excitement and mystery. We make AI chatbots, so I pretty much think it's the future of AI chat. The most exciting thing, is me and my family going down the roller coaster, Hershey PA. So when we look at a fad, we're going to talk about this concept of a fad. What is it? It's about a widely held sort of craze, something that everybody jumps onto and gets excited about it. So I said, okay, well, let me take a step back and think about what are some of the fads that we think about in society, right? You start out, you say, okay, a couple years ago it was Pokemon Go. It's kind of cool. Everyone was looking at their phone and walking around and outside. Before that, it was the spinners, the fidget spinners, right? Before that, it was the Beanie Babies, right? And then perhaps the greatest fad in the history of my lifetime, the mullet, right? Everybody had a mullet and they were going there, and you say, well, gosh, is this, was it just a fad? Well, you know what? There was like entire bands that did their thing with the mullet, right? And you look at these guys and you say, okay, well, gosh, that had to have just been in the 80s, right? Here's their tour poster from this year, right? So some fads last, some fads keep going. This is one of the greatest rock and roll bands of all time. Now, let's look at business fads, right? Exactly, right? My jokes are hitting something. All right. The first is this concept that we're going to build this brand new company. We're going to have a slide in the front room. That'll be fun. And there's going to be ping pong tables. We're all going to be playing ping pong and thinking and learning. And that's just like, yeah, it's great. I'm a business guy. That stuff's cool. It's a nice idea. The concept is pretty cool, but the reality is the most useful thing most people do with a ping pong table is turn it into a conference room, right? So it's really about understanding this process, the process of going through technology fads especially. You guys are at the very cutting edge. You're talking about new software development, you're talking about new software programs, new ways to use this stuff, and it's really like, okay, how do you get to the next level? And so you say, okay, let's take a look at it. So let's take a look at business fads, right? Let's take an AI in particular. So I went and said, okay, for just a 3-month period, I went and clipped a couple of headlines, right? How bots are going to impact the way you live, 5 technologies to transform fintech, right? Chatbots are going to drive $112 billion in sales by 2023. That same 3-month period, right? Why didn't chatbots live up to their hype? Right? Does your company need a chatbot? And my personal favorite, 50 Shades of Chatbot. What to do after the sexiness is gone, right? It's kind of like, okay, wait a second. The market can't decide what's happening, right? So we step back and say, well, in the words of the great philosopher Boris Johnson, it's easy to make promises, it's really hard to keep them, right? And I don't know if this is a commentary on Brexit, but the bottom line is the concept of leaving the EU seems like a great idea, but the actual making it happen is just like a crazy mess. And this is what we call the technology timeline. Okay, so if you look at the technology timeline, it starts at the beginning and says, hey, listen, there's a technology trigger, everybody gets super excited, woo, this is awesome, yay, it's going to change the world. We got all these expectations. Yeah, that's the ping pong table. We're all going to be playing ping pong, it's going to be great, right? And then everybody says, well, wait a second, this is actually really, really tough stuff, right? The previous speaker was talking about, wait a second, AI, yeah, it's really smart, it's great, but it turns out it's a bunch of little problems that are really hard. Right? And you have to one by one make it big, and that's why you get to this trough of disillusionment. But eventually, you get to the plateau of productivity, and what do you get? Hey, we're going to use that ping pong table as a conference table. You're going to use the technology in a way that actually makes business sense. It's going to drive a successful outcome, right? It's something we can actually sell. It solves a business problem, right? So that's kind of how we're coming in. Now, if we look at this concept of innovation, great thinker, we're big fans of Clay Christensen from Harvard Business School. He said, look, there's 2 real kinds of innovation, right? There's sustaining innovation, and this is taking a product and making it incrementally better, kind of like the AI you were talking about just a few minutes ago. And then there's disruptive innovation, which is doing a whole new thing, something completely new out of almost a whole cloth. If we look at a couple of examples, right now, I promise I'll make this all come back to AI, so just take a look at the razor. Razor started as a single blade, and then Gillette said, you know what? We're going to have 2 blades. And they said, you know what's better than 2 blades? 3 blades. And then 4, and now 5, and now you've got the little lube stick on the top. You got all this. That's incremental improvement. That's sustaining innovation. Coca-Cola had the greatest formula ever. They tried New Coke. I don't know, a lot of you guys are younger, you probably don't remember that. Didn't work, cherry Coke. Now they got lime Coke. Now they got this Coke. It is sustaining innovation. They're making little ones. And the greatest sustaining innovation of all time, Apple iPhone. Right? We're going to give you a port. We're going to take it away. You're going to have sound. You're going to have earbuds. Right? These are all, none of these are particularly incredible. The original iPhone was disruptive. Since that point, it's just been a series of moves. Okay. Now let's look at disruptive innovation. Right? Clearly the computer. Right? IBM sort of missed the personal computer boat. That sort of fundamentally changed computing power in the future. The World Wide Web. Right? You look at, start right here, ARPANET. You've got this incredible access to information. And then finally, this one I love, Uber, right? And I can remember a few years ago, my friends were like, hey, do you Uber? I'm like, what the hell's an Uber? I'm like, I don't know. And I'm not that guy that gets way out in the technology front. Now I'm like, yeah, I got Uber, I got Lyft, I got 7 different scooter apps because I go to all these cities around the world. And it's like, okay, wait, there's a Bumble, there's a, it's crazy number. And you see a bunch of fat old people on a scooter, it's kind of fun. Anyway, all right, so now let's take a deeper dive into a case study. How many of you guys remember Blockbuster? All right, now I remember back, man, you guys are probably a little too young, a couple of you guys seem to be sort of in my age group, right? Back in 1999, you walked into Blockbuster and saw this many videos, it was about to be lit. It was going to be a good night because you were going to get yourself some Notting Hill, take it home and have a big date night with your wife, right? Well, then something kind of happened because they kept growing. They're like, hey, they got 9,000 stores and $6 billion in revenue. And all of a sudden, bang, they sort of disappeared. But they did. They got hit by some initially sustaining disruption and then some innovative and completely new. So we look at the sustaining side. You look at Netflix. We all think of Netflix now because we like pop it up on our screen and we're watching stuff. But they started as a home delivery service, right? So their sustaining improvement was that you could go get stuff, you could go order your DVD and it would show up in your mailbox. So now you didn't have to worry about whether you're going to see this on this night. It showed up in your mailbox. And most importantly, you didn't have late fees. If you think about this, Blockbuster made $600 million at their peak on late fees. A core part of their business model was penalizing their customers for using their service, right? And that's Netflix is like, yeah, we can fix that. And Redbox said, hey, we can also fix that. Now, not only you don't have to get it to your mailbox, you can come to Walmart or a grocery store or wherever you want and come get it right there. And you can return it anywhere, at any time, for a reasonable fee. That was cool, right? Well, then, and so their sustaining innovation was primarily around the real estate costs, right? Because Blockbuster had this massive real estate costs for all the physical locations. Okay, so then he said, what about disruptive innovation? What happens there? Well, the internet came along. And all of a sudden, I have an infinite number of copies of that movie. I can just push a button and get it. I don't need any real estate except for server real estate, which, as we know, is pretty cheap, right? It's become super easy, and I'm going to pay one low fee, and I can watch as much as I want. Man, that's disruptive, right? But it didn't take off right away, right? The one most important part that they brought, you could use the devices you already had. You don't have to go buy anything new. You can use your laptop, you can use your phone, you can use your tablet, you can use your TV, you can use your Xbox, you can use any of these devices. So all of a sudden, you have this sort of ubiquity of access to information that you want. You don't have to fight with. So that became kind of powerful, right? Now, something else happened was that is their disruptive innovation, but there was also some market forces that had to be in place for that to drive forward. You take a look at it, you say, okay, well, what happened? Right? You say, okay, Netflix stopped, and by the way, Blockbuster had a chance to buy Netflix for like $50 million right in here, and they said, no, they're not going anywhere. They don't get it, right? They just finished the quarter, June 19, with $17.6 billion in the quarter, right? So things have changed. Anyway, what you see is you see the incremental innovation kind of coming along. You see coming along. It really wasn't a huge issue for Blockbuster, right? What was the big change, right? Well, the big change was access to Wi-Fi, right? You look at that same chart and run them side by side. Fundamentally, what you're seeing is all of a sudden, in 2009, 10, 11, right? All of a sudden, we got from 45, 42 up into 65, 70% of the United States had access to high-speed broadband. Right? So it fundamentally changed the game, and Blockbuster was just too late at that point. Right? They'd become over-leveraged, and they made the wrong bet. Right? There's a lot more behind that story, but the bottom line is that's how innovation starts to drive something. Now, let's talk about AI. I talk to a lot of dumb audiences. I'm not talking to one today. I talk to a lot of event planners and people in the corporate world that don't really understand AI. And everyone has this sort of view of AI, right? That's like, oh, it's all knowing. It's going to reach in and grab all the information. It's going to make all these decisions. It's going to do all this stuff. And you're going to see the code going. And you always like when you see in the movie, the guy gets in front of the machine. Oh, let me break in. I'm in, right? We all know it doesn't work that way. That's Hollywood's view of AI, right? The way we look at it is, how do we solve a business problem? It does so. So if you look at where AI is today, it's all around us. I don't know if you guys have seen this, the hamburger flipping AI called Flippy. Right? There's a burger chain out of San Diego has a machine that flips the burgers, and it's actually making a decision about how well cooked they are. I mean, it's doing some of the same visual analysis that you were just programming here to make a decision about how and when to flip the burger, and whether there's cheese on it, whether the cheese is too melted, it's too, and that's kind of cool. How about the AI-enabled toothbrush, right? So you stick it in your mouth, and it's actually measuring how long you're brushing each tooth, and then it gives you a report back and tells you what you should be doing. So it's theoretically kind of helpful, kind of an interesting way to look at it. And my personal favorite's the AI we see like when we're shopping, right? So sorry, I'll come back to a second. So, and then the other one's robot bees, right? So I saw this the other day. They programmed little UAVs to go pollinate flowers. Now, there's a whole other discussion about why we need UAVs to pollinate flowers, because bees did a pretty damn good job for most of history. But it's an interesting use of AI. Now, if we look at the stuff that's happening today, right, some of the more esoteric stuff, we're seeing lots in the sports world. Right? I met with a guy 2 days ago in New York, and the NHL is taking 3-second clips of minor league hockey players and analyzing their acceleration speed, and then analyzing that and then providing information back using AI to automatically recognize everybody that's skating, right? And pull all that data in so that the scouts essentially can now make a decision. Because it turns out the guy can accelerate by an extra quarter or a half mile an hour over a period of 3 seconds is going to make a big difference in the game. Right? It's the cybermetrics on steroids. I'm not doing it justice what it means, but it's really fascinating stuff. Visa is using AI to look at anomalies, right? So I came out of the payment space and out of the risk space a while back. And what's really interesting is most criminals don't take big chunks of money. They don't come and say, I'm going to take $1 million. They say, I'm going to take 99 cents a million times, right? Which is one of the biggest heights in history, right? So these guys got 65 million credit card numbers, and they were just running 99 cents. And they were running them all the time, but they were running them in all these great big batches, right? At odd times of the day. You don't shop at 3 in the morning for a 99-cent item. Most of the time, perhaps you do, right? We won't talk about your microtransactions, but we're not judging, right? Everything's fine. What you're doing, what you saw was, wait a second, you're seeing these really anomalous transactions across billions of transactions. They found tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands that were fraudulent. So they're using AI to crunch that big data. And then on the sales side, the inflatable giraffe. And you're saying, okay, well, what the hell does an inflatable giraffe have to do with AI? This is interesting. One of my buddies got drunk, mentioned to me that he loved giraffes, and he was getting married at his home. So what do? I naturally go buy 10-foot inflatable giraffes and send them to him without any explanation whatsoever. But Amazon, using their AI, says, hey, if you're going to buy that, you're also going to want this inflatable bull ring to put in his pool, which I also bought and sent to his house. So again, AI is making this suggestion that delivers happiness to us. Okay. Now, if I step back and I simplify it to its most basic core, when I think about AI on the front end, we're not selling it to people who actually pay for it, right? It's really good at two things: crunching big numbers, looking at stuff, massive amount of data, and kind of coming up with patterns and insight and information. And the other's doing a repetitive task. Fundamentally, yours was just doing a repetitive task. It's looking, is it yes or no? I'm oversimplifying it, but that's going through this very, very fast. Well, here's the funny thing. All of this comes back to this concept of customer service. And customer service is nothing if not a ridiculously repetitive task. It's people asking the same questions again and again. They're unique to them. They're not unique to the receiver of the question, not unique to the business entity that's there. So it's about, okay, how can I use AI to help solve this problem, right? If we step back and say, okay, let's understand what customer service is about. The leading guys in the industry say, listen, I want to be greeted, respected, valued, helped, listen, wow me. Great. There's 3 pieces of information that really need to come out. 1, you got to understand your customer needs. 2, choose your technology wisely. You can't just throw technology at a problem. And 3, know your customer. I'm going to take you guys back to Psych 101. You guys remember Abraham Maslow? He talked about fundamentally changing the way we build things back in the 60s. It was all about Freud, right? Freud said, oh, it's about your mom or your dad or your mom and your dad. And Maslow said, no. It's about a series of needs, and you have to solve an increasingly narrow set of needs to get to your best self, right? You're probably promised, we'll come back to the AI piece, right? He said, look, you got to start with physiological. You start with breathing, food, water, sex. Not the fun sex, but the let's continue the human race sex. Right? Then you get security, then you get up to the intimacy. That's one of the fun bits, right? Then you get up to confidence, and finally you can be your most successful self. So when you think of a customer service problem, or we are in the event industry an awful lot, an event industry problem, this same hierarchy exists. It actually exists in every single, I'm going to the Ute team. It exists for the Ute team. It exists today. Me trying to get here, to get across the marathon. I was running in Fort Union, which was a major pain in the butt. So you look at it, you say, only once you've done all these things, can you get up and be the best you, right? Now, you guys have all had this problem. You had 2 big gulps, you had 4 cups of coffee, you had whatever your beverage of choice is. You're there and you suddenly realize, I need to get rid of all that liquid. And you're walking down the hall and you see a colleague, and the colleague says, hey man, let me talk to you about something. I got the cure to cancer. And all you can hear is Charlie Brown's teacher going womp, 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 because you got to pee. Right? You have to solve the need at the bottom before you can get to that higher self. So it really doesn't matter. And this plays out in every single customer service situation. Right? You got to solve the basic to get to the next. Okay. I'm going to come back to Clay Christensen. Right? He talked about this concept of the job to be done, and I would encourage you, as you guys are out building stuff, be really cognizant of what do I actually want this to do? The example you just gave me, you just showed was it is taking a picture of this and determining whether it thinks it sees it right now. Right? It was a very narrow job to be done. And you added another job to be done, and you compared the two. It's a very narrow job to be done. Well, he was hired, I'll give you a great example. He was hired to sell more milkshakes at McDonald's, right? Now, you would think selling milkshakes is pretty cool. And you say, okay, so wait, I'm sorry, I'll step back. You start to think about hiring stuff. I hired the cup of coffee I drank to give me a little caffeine, which is why I'm running about 2 miles an hour ahead of normal. And I hired shoes to feel comfortable. Like at the moment, I'm wearing my shoes because I'm going to the game. When I made this presentation, I was wearing dress shoes, so I hired them to be as comfortable as they can. You look at what do you hire a milkshake to do, right? You say, well, is it delivering sweet goodness? Is it drowning your sorrows, right? You want a beverage with a meal? It was none of these things. When Clay Christensen asked and said, well, when do you sell the most milkshakes? Let me ask you this. When do you think McDonald's sells the most milkshakes as a percentage of sales during the day? What time of day? 2 or 3, 11 o'clock?
11 p.m.
11 p.m.? Yeah, you're all wrong. Breakfast. They sell the most milkshakes at breakfast, right? Right? Everybody got the puzzle. I always called that the puzzle dog. Right? So the reason was, they started saying, well, we don't understand why. Well, why is it that you're selling so many milkshakes, And they're saying, well, first of all, the premise that everybody walked in was that the milkshakes at McDonald's were competing against other milkshakes, which would make every one of your answers make great sense, because that's what we traditionally think about a milkshake. But it turns out when they asked people, they said, well, why'd you buy a milkshake? I want something that fits in my hand, fits in my cup holder, easy to drink through that big ass straw, takes about 40 minutes for me to eat, right? It's still there when I get to the office and it fills me up until the end of breakfast. So the milkshake wasn't competing against other milkshakes. The milkshake was competing against greasy sandwiches and yogurt cups that if you open up in the car, they explode all over your blouse, right? Or your tie, right? And all the other nonsense. So understanding what the job to be done is becomes incredibly powerful. All right, now I'm going to talk a little bit about how technology has changed us all. There's been some really interesting studies that say that our brains are different now than they were a half a generation ago. Right? How many of you guys, you're all young crowd, how many of you can remember your childhood friends' phone numbers? Right? See, you're maybe the only one. I come from back where you had to remember that stuff, right? Like you had or maybe written on the wall next to the long green avocado cord that we all see in Stranger Things, right? But I look at my buddies, Jeff Erskine, 742-1895, Greg Ellis, 749-4324, John Murphy, 742-4882, my mom, 742-6394. This is dead before you get area codes, right? Here's the funny part. I dropped my 15-year-old son off at boarding school in Florida. I can tell you his phone number starts with 903. I haven't talked to two of these guys in 30 years. brains have changed. We don't need to remember anything. You guys, I got kids, and they always ask me, hey, Dad, how did you guys coordinate schedules when you were going to go meet somebody somewhere? I'd be like, well, we said we'd meet them, and we met them. It was pretty straightforward, right? So, well, but what if something changes, man, and they're late? At some point you go, yeah, he ain't here, we're gone, right? No, there's no longer, no, I'm on my way. Oh, shit, I'm still in the bathroom, right? You can't do that, right? And then finally, how many of you guys, it's a young couple, when I started, you actually had a map in your car, right? They ran McNally, and it sat right over here in the back of the passenger seat, so you'd be driving down the road. Oh, man. Okay, you get it out, and you look at A7. Okay, you got it. All of these things exist here now. What's happened is we've all been, we call it Alexified. We've been Alexified, right? Every single piece of data we want, we can get instantly. It's instantly available to us in seconds on just about any device we have, right? And so, why should customer service be any different? Why should an event? There's an event. There's a lot from this event. We'll talk about it later, right? So you look and you say, okay, who scored the most touchdowns in the history of the NFL? Anybody? Yeah, I looked it up. Took me 3 seconds. Antonio Gates, right? All right. How do you make a souffle? Right? I don't know. I'm not very good at that nonsense. I order in. That's what Uber Eats is for. But you know what? You can go online and find a video in seconds. They'll teach you how to do it. How to get to grandma's house. I was in Louisville 2 weeks ago. How do I get to my mother's house? Bang, gives me instant directions, right? Again, we're all being taught this. Okay. Now, when you start asking customer service questions or walking in the front door of an event, what happens, right? We have a client that's in the Javits Center. Right? How many of you guys have been to the Javits Center in New York for anything? It's a big expo space. But the reality is, as soon as you step outside of the world of general knowledge and get into the specific knowledge of customer service that's specific to your company or your company or your company or your event or your event or your event, or for that matter, the Utes game or the BYU game, crickets. You can't get that. You can't get that instant answer, right? Because you can ask a question, crickets like crickets, you can't hear anything. You're looking. Does that make sense what I'm saying? You hear nothing but crickets. Like there's no answer. You look at it and you say, I can find out about tight ends, I can find out about all this general knowledge, but the more specific it gets, the harder it gets. We call it publicly private, privately public, right? It's publicly private. It's not easy to get the information about whether or not there's Wi-Fi here. It's not easy to get information about, hey, there's going to be this delay to get here. It's not easy to figure out exactly what floor everything's going to be on. That's publicly private, right? In contrast, once we're in the room, once we're a customer, that's privately public. They want us to have all that info, as much of it as possible, in every channel we can, and we got that wonderful piece of paper, right? So it's about now delivering that information out intelligently. And Freddie Mercury, I saw Queen 2 weeks ago, snuck in the show, had a good time, right? He always said, I want it all, I want it now. That's what your customers do. They want it all, they want it now. Okay, so now let's talk about chatbots. What if there was a solution with a 95% correct response rate and a 98% open rate? Right? Didn't require download, zero friction. Everybody had it. They knew how to use it, right? More importantly, it becomes the channel, the opening to get to all sorts of other data, and it was easy to set up and easy to deliver, right? That would be kind of interesting. It's an interesting application of AI. And this comes back to this concept that Boris talked about. It's easy to make promises, hard to keep. We say it's really easy to build a chatbot. It is really, 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 really difficult to build one that works. Right? How many of you had a craptastic chatbot experience online somewhere where you just want to ask a question? Yeah, right? It's, you go, well, no, we want to sell you something, but I need to return something. Which product are you interested in? Right? That's not a great experience. So when you look at it, first of all, I want to separate. There's two kinds of chatbots, right? They're what we call rigid structured bots. And let's be honest, they're not AI at all. They're a decision tree. Right? We've all seen that. You go and you really only have a couple of choices, right? And we see the same thing when we call customer service to the credit card. I called my healthcare company yesterday, and please tell us what you're looking for. You can choose this or this. Well, I wanted that. It's like, oh, I'm sorry, I did not understand. You can choose this or this, but I wanted that. Right? That's not AI. That's a decision tree, right? So we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about conversational ones, right, which are much more difficult. And when we look at it, we say, okay, what do we mean by deep conversation and multi-channel bots, right? We're talking about bots that operate many different places, 24/7, and deliver a higher level of interaction. They're using NLP, yeah, they're using natural language processing to deliver a little bit more success. So what do we mean by deep conversation, right? Here's a pretty simple question. Where's the bathroom? But it's not simple at all. Because bathroom is a synonym of ladies and gents and lube, head and crapper and porta potty and facilities and powder room and dummy and literally 212 other things. And where's that? As it turns out, is a contraction of where is the. You can just as easily say, please show me the. How do I get to the? Where on the map is the? Do you gotta? You could do any of those things. And as humans, we would recognize all those variations, and there's over 42,000 of them, as a reasonable request that we should understand on how to get to the bathroom. And that's what you want a bot to do, is understand the human at a reasonable level and deliver a conversational response. Now, I will tell you, occasionally, no matter how good you do, the bot's going to get stumped. We had somebody talk to our bot a couple of months ago, and they typed in, I gotta pee. Right? Now, it's not an interrogatory. The bot did not understand it at the first pass. Now, the bot does what a bot does and says, you know what, can you try again? Here's what I can help you with. Here's where you can go. And they came back and they said, where's the bathroom? Oh, yeah, I can answer that question. Right? Then the bot learns. Right? The bot learns, I gotta pee, is like, where's the bathroom? Right? So it's getting smarter all the time. The flip side is, had somebody come up and say that, we'd all probably go, it's kind of an odd thing to just tell me, but okay, the bathroom's down there, right? So it's about delivering out success that way. Okay, now, what do we mean by multi-channel? Right? The reality is, we all operate our lives in multiple places, right? So when we deliver bots into the marketplace, we're in SMS, we're in the web, we're in Twitter, we're in Viber, we're on WeChat, there's lots of different things. Yeah, this gets back to the job to be open. Everybody wants to be in two places, SMS and WeChat. Or sorry, SMS and the web chat. Right? They want to be there because that's where they operate most of their customer service needs. Right? You can do stuff in Facebook, but it turns out a lot of people don't really want to talk about business in Facebook. Right? They want to put pictures of the pasta they ate. I don't get it. You know, after chasing bad guys around the world, I'm like a Luddite when it comes to social media. So you know, I don't do that stuff. Okay, so why do we want text? It's got a 98% open rate. I have face-to-face conversations without a 98% open rate. Right? We want people to get the message. We want them to get the data. We're delivering it to them. Most texts are read in 5 seconds. 90% of texts are read within 5 minutes of being received. That means if you're delivering information out to an audience that needs to get that information, they're going to get it. Why on the web? Right? Because we can take 2 lines of code, put a pop-up box, and now you've Alexa-fied your website. Right? Your counterparts in your organizations, you guys have already answered all the damn questions. You've already given the answers, but the people don't look for them. They won't go past the front page. Right? I always tell the story, you know, I'll be at a trade show, and someone will walk up and say, excuse me, do you know where registration is? And there's literally a 6-foot sign above the people's head that says registration is right here, right? So, you know, people are dumb. You'll never go broke underestimating the intelligence of the average American, right? Okay, now your messages get read, and you can do both scheduled and ad hoc, meaning you can push it out anyway. I'm going to give you an example in a minute. It also means that you can ask a question and get an answer. So, chatbots have 2 key components, right? I'm talking to people way smarter than me, so I'm going to zip through this part. But basically, you got the template. These are all the things that chatbot will do. Its job. What is its job? Then you have the library, the answers to those questions and who's allowed to see them. You say, well, wait, why would you say who's allowed to see them? Because you can have 2 people ask the same question and get a different answer on purpose. Right? So in this context, a regular attendee says, where's dinner? No, it's in the main hall, 6 p.m. VIP says, where's dinner? Same question. Well, we're taking you to Ruth's Chris. We're going to pick you up in the limo. Why is that really important? Because all of a sudden we have identity. When you come in through your cell phone, when you come in via SMS, you got a 10-digit number that's kind of powerful. I know who you are, which means I can deliver your personalized information and your personalized information and your personalized information, which makes a very powerful result. It's a very wonderful customer service experience. Now, as you were talking about earlier, theoretically, you can have a chatbot or an AI machine do anything. But rarely are any of our customers going to have enough money to pay it to do anything. So you got to choose between scope, how much do you want it to do, and scale. For how many, for how long, and on how many channels. You know, so in our world, the chatbot, I can build a chatbot for 12 people, 12 executives in a boardroom. I can build a chatbot for 100,000 people in a stadium. I've done both. Clearly, there's a different scale. Right? I built chatbots like we hooked a bot to Eventbrite for this event. right? I think it got done yesterday, so I'm not sure it was well publicized. But that's a very narrow bot that it's really only supposed to say, here's where it is, here's the agenda. No, there's not Wi-Fi. That's pretty much what it's supposed to say, right? And I've had bots that are answering tens of millions of questions about it, right? Okay. So you come back to this concept of ask a question, get an answer, ask a question, get an answer, ask a question, get an answer. What happens when it doesn't know? We call that an IDK. What's that?
Just say it doesn't know.
Yeah, literally it says, I don't know, right? There's different ways you can do it, right? So, you know, in this particular example, it understands the question, but it doesn't have the answer. So it's telling you, hey, I know what you asked, but I haven't been trained on it. Alternatively, it'll say, you know what, I just don't know. I did not understand you. Does not compute. Okay? Try again, simplify. Because we'll get people like, this is one of my favorite IDKs. Let me back up. There's only two reasons you get an IDK. I don't know, it's an IDK. The bot knows the answer but doesn't understand the question, or the bot's not been trained on the answer. It's very binary, right? So one of my favorite knows the answer but doesn't understand the question. Hey, I just landed at LaGuardia. I'm really excited about the keynote speaker today. I called an Uber, but it's raining today. Looks like it's gonna be about 45 or 50 minutes. I'm not sure I'm gonna be able to pick up my ticket, but I definitely want to get it. What time is it? I don't know what that is. And the bot said, try again. What time's registration open in the morning? Like, okay, bot got that. Right? So it's about narrowing the scope of the request. Then you say, okay, well, what about the one where it's not portraying the answer? If you ask the bot for this event, what's about the Wi-Fi? The answer is we don't have it. Right? You know, people spend most of their time, most of the IDKs are actually people trying to bust the bot. Hey, is Bob wearing boxers or briefs? Right? You know, one of my favorites, and I can show you an example. We're the official bot of the University of Utah lacrosse team. We launched at their inaugural D1 game on February 1st this year. There's a stadium full of lacrosse fans, including teenage boys, and our #1 IDK was send nudes, right? So they were all asking the bot to send their nudes. And so we actually gave it an answer, which is, I don't know why you want them. Here you go. It's a picture of 5 shades of nude lipstick. And then my tech team got involved, and they said, okay, so they sent him a picture of the motherboard, like, take a look, you know. So it's a little bit of everything, right? Again, you want it to have a little bit of fun, okay? But most importantly, the thing to remember, you know, in the world of chatbots is, if the bot's not trained on the question, that's okay, right? Because one, you're learning what your customer really wants to know. It's the voice of your customer, the truest voice of your customer. What do they want to know, and exactly how are they asking it? You have a written record of all of them. More importantly, you're going to be able to move them to another channel. So in the world of customer service, think about what you do. Like, how many of us do this? You know, you go to our website, you don't get what you want. You send an email, you don't get what you want. You make a phone call, you don't get what you want. Now your customer service Karen, you're like, let me talk to your manager. You're escalating, you're choosing another channel, you're moving through it. The bot can move your customers. A bot can move your customers to exactly the channel you want them to go to. Right? I may want you to go to a VIP channel, and I want you to go to the back of the line. Right? I mean, I can move you to the customer service channel you want. And we all do this anyway, right? When you call the airline, I've flown 2.5 million miles on Delta. When I call the airline, they're like, hey, Bob, right? When I call United, like, your whole time, 77 minutes. If you'd like, we can call you back next Tuesday, right? So it's again, they treat you a little bit. Okay, now, I want to talk a little bit about this concept of leveraging data, right? Historically, when we say, what's your most valuable piece of data? Most people would say their social security number, right? If I walked up to you on the street and said, yo, give me your social security number, your answer is going to be no, preceded by some other words, I suspect, right? But the flip side is, if you wanted to get a loan or buy a car or a house, you'd be happy to give that number, right? So yeah, here you go, because I'm getting something in exchange. Well, we would posit that the most powerful piece of data we all have in this room is your cell phone. Also a unique 10-digit number that uniquely identifies you, but instead of just being able to connect you to a database, it also allows you to send and receive texts and pictures and voice and audio, and allows you to play on the internet, and most importantly, you can play, you know, words with friends. And it's a powerful, powerful piece of data. And that, we look at it and say, it lets you build community, right? Because once you open this channel, SMS, it doesn't close. How many of you guys have been to some industry trade show where you had to download an app to find out about what was going on? Right? All right. Did you have it before you got there? No.
Well, the day before. When they
The
sent
day
the
before.
email.
Exactly. And then when you were done with the trade show, what'd you do? delete, right? I don't even make it through half a trade show anymore, right? In contrast, how many people in this room have SMS on their phone right now? Everybody. How many people send text today? Everybody, right? So your customers, right? Wherever they are, they're in a channel that is ubiquitous. 99.9% have it. Actually, a little less than that. They all use it. And it is it's not age dependent. It's not demographically dependent. Everyone says, oh, well, all the young kids are texting. But grandma and grandpa are. Yeah, hell yeah, they are. That's the only way they can talk to their grandkids. Right? So they know how to text. There's no way they're going to download an app or download additional pieces of software. So again, it comes back to what's the job to be done. Right? You can have the most elegant piece of software in the world, but if no one downloads it and uses it, it doesn't matter. Now, what that means is now you can communicate on a move forward basis. Okay. So, so far, everything I've been talking about is rainbows and unicorns, right? In this context, this is probably more data that you guys want about thinking about how to think about chatbots and the questions you have to ask about them. But the bottom line is, if you guys ever decide for your own customer services purposes to go look at chatbots, here's a list of questions you should be asking, your scope team should be asking. And I'm happy to provide them later, but I don't think it adds a lot of value to go through them in any detail, other than conveniently, we do all this stuff and most of our competitors don't. So I chose the right things to put on the board. Okay, building chatbots is pretty easy. And in a minute, I'm going to show you one. Typically, we say to build a custom chatbot from start to finish with a couple million questions and answers, 6 to 8 weeks. Right? Typically takes most of our clients about an hour of their time a week. Right? Which, what we've done, to get into the technical side of it, we built a CMS for NLP. We built a content management system for natural language processing. So we've taken all these little snippets of conversation we've been having with our clients for years, and we made them very easy for a non-technical person to be able to bolt together and create a conversation that automatically then goes and deconflicts all the potential words in it, right? The net result is we can build really, really complex bots that are really good at what they do really quickly, right? Okay. One of the beautiful things about chatbots is they're the most beautiful team members in the world, right? So you think about them, they're delivering 95+% correct response rate, which is better than a call center, better than a human, better than a rented customer service agent, right? They don't leave early, take breaks, they don't show up hungover, pissed off, trashed, mad because the cat missed the litter box, they don't have a sassy attitude, they give exactly the same answer every single time, and you have a written record of everything they did. If you look at deployments that make sense, we built a bot for one of our clients called Betty. So all our bots can be named whatever you want. Betty was supposed to be a sassy New Yorker. Our client actually created an apartment, Betty's apartment, and said, this is Betty. And it got to the point where people were calling and asking for Betty, and they wanted to interact with Betty. Betty was a sassy New Yorker who had kind of a, up-yours attitude, right? But gave the answers to the questions, right? And so they made Betty part of their team. Another example case study out there, Peloton, have you guys ever heard of it? It's the largest cancer ride in the United States. They raised like nearly a couple $100 million for cancer. They had a really interesting business problem, chopped together. 30,000 people, 70% of them show up in about a 2-hour window, all need their regalia, their stuff, right? How do you handle that? Well, we built a bot that did a bunch of stuff, answered lots of questions, because they had 7 different rides. These 30,000 people go 5K, 10K, 25K, 50K, 75K, 150K, and then there was a concert at the beginning and the end of every one of those rides that were all at different places. So we built a bot that answered all those questions, but the most important thing it did for them was it delivered their badge. So they got a QR code delivered right to SMS. Oh shit, there it is. No lag, there it is, right? And they could just scan and their stuff printed out. Bang, there you go. Saved about 45 to 50 seconds apiece, which doesn't seem crazy until you do it 10,000 times in an hour, right? It made a huge difference. And this one was really interesting. So many people called and thought Tanya was a real person. They would call the offices and want to talk to Tanya. And like, well, Tanya's a bot. And there was one gentleman who was like, no, I've been texting with her all day. She's been answering all my questions. No, Tanya is like artificial. She doesn't exist. They ended up doing a news story, right? So, how many of you guys are familiar with the Premier Lacrosse League? Not a big lacrosse fan, that's okay, I am. Newest professional sports stadium, we built a bot called Slash. Now what was really interesting here is this gets back to this concept of community, about reaching out to the people who've already reached out to you. So yes, you could ask where the stadium was and what time the game started and all the different players. But more importantly, you could push messages out. So we pushed out a message after the first week that said, hey, you want to buy something? More importantly, you can push messages out. So we pushed out a message after the first week that said, hey, you want to buy some swag? You want to buy t-shirts of your favorite show or your favorite team or hats? Got a 45% click-through rate. I don't know how much visibility you guys have the marketing side. Not 45% open rate, 45% click-through rate. Almost half the people went and bought something. That's like, you know, back up the Brinks truck kind of stuff. That's good stuff. That's what you're after. Okay. Looking at the why chatbots, why now, right? So if we look at a couple of things, right? Originally people said, oh, let's do apps. So, you know, every client had to have an app. Every customer had to have an app. Every event had an app. Why? Well, one, you want to get rid of paper. That's a really valuable thing to do. Two, I want to provide all the information on the device you've got. But the real problem was that you couldn't sustain that 10 years ago. Every customer had to have an app. Every event had to have. Why? Well, one, you want to get rid of paper. That's a really valuable thing to do. Two, I want to provide all the information on the device you've got. But the real problem was that you couldn't sustain that 10 years ago. You couldn't walk around with your phone and just have access to the internet. Or if you did, it was like, okay, I'm going to ask, you know, what tight end has the most touchdowns, and like 10 minutes later, the answer finally like comes through. Right, so what's happened is now we have ubiquitous Wi-Fi and ubiquitous mobile data that's at a high speed. So now you can now deliver a much richer customer service experience. And bluntly, that's why app usage has fallen off a cliff across all spectrums, all businesses, all utilizations. The only ones that really matter, you say, okay, I'm gonna have my Delta app. I mean, how many apps do you guys have less apps on your phones now than you did 10 years ago? I did. Okay, and the reason for that, of course, is radical escalation in mobile data traffic. Okay, so I'm just going to do a demo because we'll get to the end. The bots are here. They're here to stay. AI is going forward. Customer service is one angle, but we're seeing 95% correct response rate, less than 1% unsubscribes, as long as you're delivering value. Right? Somebody signs up to get information about lacrosse, and I'm sending them 2-for-1 slushies. That's not a valuable interaction. In contrast, if I send them more information about lacrosse or about technology or about something else, that's valuable. All right, get out your phones. Let's play with the bot. You guys are ready? Oh, sorry. There's a bunch of customers we work with. There's a bunch of awards we won. Cool. All right. Get ready to send to this number, 25525. Text the word demo, D-E-M-O. Yeah.
5 minutes?
I thought you were just waving it.
No, just giving your 5-minute warning.
That's fine. All right, and when you do it, you've just done everything you need to talk to an AI chatbot. It's going to come back and tell you her name is DB. It stands for demo bot. It's for it's a live bot for a fake event in Chicago. Right, so it's a one-day event. You can say, where is it, when is it, what time does it start, how do I get there, what's the meaning of life, can I have gluten-free food, is there a good parking space nearby, what should I wear, who's the speaker? You can ask it any of those questions and it'll deliver the answer. Right? If you type in demo my schedule, you'll get a personalized schedule. Now, it's not personalized to you because we don't know who you are yet. Right? And we haven't signed you up for anything yet. Right? So what you're seeing is from a customer service perspective, right now there's whatever it is, 15 or 20 people in this room, all asking disparate questions, and the bot's responding in a couple of seconds. Right? So let me show you a couple other cool things. So just to show you that from a technology perspective, it may not be nearly as exciting as it is from a customer service, things that people want to buy perspective. But type in the word Jackie, J-A-C-K-I-E. Jackie, J-A-C-K-I-E. Right? When you do, it's going to take you to another bot. Essentially, you just jumped from one bot to another. So we're using a keyword to trigger. It's a traffic controller. So we're traffic controlling. We have about 150 bots live on this 25525 number. And the keyword tells you which bot you're operating in. Now, Jackie doesn't do a lot of it except show you features. So she's going to say, hey, you can type profile. So type the word profile, right? Into Jackie, I guess, advanced. There you go, Jackie 255. Type the word profile, click the link, and fill out the form. We're going to throw this data out, so you can put Donald Duck or Sasha Fierce or, curmudgeon, I don't care. Right? The idea is that what's going to happen is you're now creating a relationship via this SMS path very quickly, very easily. After you've hit submit, right, it'll seem like nothing happens, but whatever BS data you put in there, we got it. So go back to the bot and type in participants, right? And you'll be able to see everybody that's in the room, right? Again, you don't actually have access to their data, but you're seeing what they put in. So all of a sudden now, through this SMS channel, now imagine you're at an event with 100,000 technical people, and I want to ask you a question because you just spoke. I can look up your record, find you, push a message discreetly. So if you've made it public, then I would go directly to you. If you've not made it public, then it's going to be like Uber. You're going to get a masked number that comes through. You're able to interact all through this SMS chain. The last one, I go type in my badge. I'm going to do something on this one here. Right? And whatever name you put in, you've just got a badge that has your name attached to that badge. You click the link again. Okay. Tell me some catastrophic thing that might happen in the customer service world that you would want to tell your customers about. Pick one. Goofy, silly, doesn't matter. All right, we'll go with marathon. You guys are a big chatty crowd. Marathon is a pain. What do we want people to do about it?
Shut it down.
Shut it down, go to the bar. I'm with you. All right. Oop, probably should spell shut right. All right. So, in the world of customer service, with an ad hoc need, I just pushed a message out to everybody in the room. The next 3 or 4 seconds, you should get a message that says, hey, marathon is a pain. Shut it down, go to the bar. Right? The ability to push messages out that everybody gets in real time becomes incredibly powerful. So guys, I'm happy to answer questions. I think I'm starting a little late, but I'm done on time. I'm about schedule integrity. If you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them. I'm also happy to answer them afterwards. Thank you very much for your time. Go ahead.
Why should I ask you a question when I got your bot here?
Yeah, but it depends on what you want to know. Feel free, ask it. If you want to go back and play with like a real customer service bot, go back and type in demo, and you're back in the sort of event bot.
So how do you like test the effectiveness of this? Is there something like Kubernetes in place that your technical guys are using to kind of make new
So you're doing a couple of
adjustments?
things.
Small batches or?
Absolutely, we're tracking both IDKs. So the bot throws up a flag when there's an IDK. On the flip side, we're using techniques like that to go in and look at false positives. When the bot thought it was right, but in fact gave the wrong answer, that's just as important because as it turns out, if you let AI just run free, you get a racist on the phone bot like Microsoft did. So yes, we are. And I can put you with my tech team who can give you way more detail.
Oh, awesome.
Does your website have a tech blog?
Not currently. We just did a rebrand, so we pulled some stuff back. You want to come on board and tech blog with us? What do you have? Look at that, taking up content right from here.
So what is like your end goal with all of this? What do you hope to kind of see in the future and develop?
Bots are going to be everywhere. So what we've done is we've built a series of templated conversational bots that you can fill out very quickly. So whether it's a small bot for a one-day meeting like this, or a little bigger, then you step into the custom space. But we look at it and say, okay, simple example, weddings, right? What a stupid idea, except there's 2.5 million of them a year. They have the same business problem. 300 people coming to a place they don't know, don't know everybody that's there, don't have all the answers. The only 2 people who can answer the questions don't want to talk, right? So it's like, okay, there's a great example of I can put a bot in place that allows them to build that themselves in 5 minutes. The bot will answer 1 million questions about a one-day event. Well, there's going to be a bot at your dentist. There's going to be a bot at the pizza parlor. There's going to be a bot at all these places because those are all repetitive interactions. Hey, what time is my dental appointment? Can I reschedule? There's no reason for a human to be in that interaction. Let a bot do it. So, yes, they'll be able. And they will recognize.